and Jobs Advisor Curtis Ellis. Curtis, first on the on this situation in Brazil and Argentina. Now, Hillary started initially her piece saying that they have filled a void, the agriculture void. Is some of what happened today based on that, retaliation for that as well?
Absolutely. This is bigger than steel. This is about the fact that, look, Brazil, major producer of soybeans, who do they sell them to? China. Argentina, beef. Who are they selling their agricultural products to? China. When they manipulate their currency to keep it undervalued, that is affecting much more than steel in our country. Steel is the weak point for Brazil. They sell $2.5 billion worth of exports of steel to the United States. That's the way to get their attention. Stop cheating on trade.
Isn't all of this fungible to the degree that whoever Brazil might have been selling soy to before China, if they're selling it to China, then that old customer needs someone to buy it from. Can they buy it from us? Or, you know, in other words, how does this work? Can they just automatically fill the gap? I mean, because we're talking substantial numbers here.
Yeah, well, look, China is playing a game with us, right? China has bought farmland in Brazil. They own the major soybean export port in Brazil, the railroad that takes the soybeans from the field to the port. They own the trading company, and they own the seed company. So they're trying to get more than market control over soybean production in South America. So, look, the last thing we need is for Brazil to be devaluing its currency to get even further distortions in the market.
So one of the things I thought about, though, when I saw this, because over the weekend coming into this morning, there was yet another story about China's demands, and part of it for phase one, roll back some tariffs. I don't know what the number would be, sign of good faith or whatever. But if President Trump decided to do that, this morning, this action in Brazil and Argentina is a message to China, hey, we can roll back tariffs, but if listen, if there are any missteps, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, we'll put them back on in the blink of an eye. To me, this also sends a message to China. If indeed we do roll back any tariffs, they can go back on in an instant.
President Trump is sending many messages to China, and he understands that this whole world trade situation is a lot more complicated than previous administrations have acted. They thought simply buy our friends on the world stage by giving away our industries, giving away our jobs, basically giving away our economy. President Trump is saying, let's do what's right for America and let the chips fall where they may on this international trade situation. We're going to stand up for what American farmers, ranchers, producers, and workers need.
Do you find it intriguing? I'm working on a piece now as we head towards 2 years of tariffs, thinking back to all of the misery that was promised in America. Right. that we would have. There's no way 2 years ago anyone would have said we would have wages going through the roof better than a decade. We'd have record-breaking numbers in jobs. We'd have record-breaking moves in the stock market. We'd have consumer confidence through the roof. We'd have 7 million job openings. No one predicted that. Instead, they said, Smoot-Hawley, Smoot-Hawley, Smoot-Hawley. Let me explain to the audience what happened in Smoot-Hawley. In 1930, Smoot-Hawley goes into effect. There's 8% unemployment. The next year, there's 16% unemployment. The next year, 25%. The next year, 25%. GDP goes from 90 billion to 72 billion to 60 billion to 57 billion. We were promised Smoot-Hawley. We got the exact opposite. How do you explain that, Curtis?
Well, you got to go back to Henry Carey, Abraham Lincoln's economic advisor. He says when you raise the wages and the incomes of Americans, they will have more consuming power. Consumption follows production. Production comes first. So what President Trump is doing is going back to the old playbook, the original playbook of the American system, which is do what will raise the incomes, raise the productive capacity of our country, and then you've got rising wages and more consumption. And that is what's happening.
Thank you very much, Curtis Ellis. Always a pleasure. All right, it's the official start to the holiday.